Welcome back, guys. Tyler Secrist here. Thank you so much for tuning into the Weekly Tea. This week's video, we're going to talk about hidden costs to buying a home.
Welcome to the Weekly Tea. Look, I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea, and I'm cool with that.
All right, guys, this is a little bit of clickbait. There shouldn't be any hidden costs to buying a house if you're working with the right people. You'll hear this repeatedly throughout a lot of my videos. The first step in any real estate transaction or new build, so to speak, is to get with your trusted real estate professional. If you get with your trusted real estate professional and it's somebody who's operating at a high level, there's nothing that's going to be hidden. It's all going to be transparent. You're going to be aware of it, and you're going to be able to make high-level decisions, and you're just going to win. So let's start there. Sadly, in my field, not everyone runs their business that way, and that's not always the case, which is why we started this channel, which is why we make videos like this, because I want to put you guys in a position of strength, and I want you to get educated, and I want to see everybody win. So I derived a little list of, let's see here, I've got 7 items here that are commonly missed, or I'll get contacted from a person who was working with another agent who was not happy because they felt like they weren't getting, good service or they weren't educated. These were like the main 6, 7 things that they did not know when I started working with them or for them, that I just want to bring to light, and I want you guys to be mindful of, or I guess just bold underline, because these things do get missed quite a bit. So the first hidden cost, it's not hidden, is your appraisal fee. When you buy a piece of real estate and you're having to take out a mortgage to buy it or borrow money, the lender will most likely will require what's called an appraisal. It's a third-party individual who's licensed, and he comes out, or she comes out, and appraises the property just to make sure it's worth, what you're willing to pay, just to make sure it's, it's a good investment for the lender. And there's a fee associated with that, and that fee gets wrapped up into your closing costs. How much is that fee? It really depends upon the size of the home. On average, I'm seeing them range anywhere between $350 to $750 on a few rare cases on really big estates. It could be $1,000, $1,200, but I would say about $500 or so is the average appraisal fee. And again, that is in your closing costs. So when you get pre-approved to buy a house, your lender should give you preliminary numbers. It should quote, so to speak, to show you what your cash to close is. But that's in your closing costs, and that is one that people have questions on or think it's hidden. It's not. The second one is the home inspection. A lot of people don't realize there's a fee associated with that, and it's the buyer's responsibility to get that conducted. Sometimes you can negotiate. Not lately, not in the past 5 to 6 years. We used to be able to get sellers to pay for closing costs, prepaids, and inspections. And sometimes we could get some credit to offset that expense. And when I say credit, you still have to pay for it out of pocket up front, and then you get reimbursed at closing in that credit from the seller. But that is a buyer's expense, and that is something that you should save up for, and that is something that you should spend your money on, and you can typically expect to pay around $500 for that as well. The third one is your earnest money. A lot of people think earnest money is an additional expense when buying a house, and I wouldn't say that it's an additional expense. It's an included expense. Your earnest deposit is not in addition to your down payment. It gets credited from your down payment. So for example, if you're putting $10,000 down cash to close to buy, a property, and let's say you have to put up $1,000 of earnest cash on the front end of the transaction, you're not bringing another 10 grand at the closing table. You'll be bringing 9. A lot of people think your earnest deposit is an addition to, and they just freak out when they hear their agent say, hey, we've got to get your earnest deposit submitted. I need $1,000, wrote to this person, scan me a copy of it by Wednesday. Whoa, I thought I had to come up with that at this date. Nope, a little bit at the front end just to show good faith, and then the rest of it at closing to close the deal. The fourth one that gets overlooked a lot are moving expenses. And I want to talk about that because a lot of people don't think about what's associated with all of that. If you're moving across the country, or if you're moving across town, if you don't have trucks and trailers and stuff like that, you will incur some moving expenses, whether you have to store something short term or if you have to rent a U-Haul. I would just be mindful when you start your house search to take into account all the expenses that I'm talking about today. That way, you're not pushing it, so to speak, and you can comfortably move. The fifth hidden cost, it's not hidden, that should be just assumed, are your utility expenses. And the reason I want to talk about the utility expenses is, like, what is a utility? Some people come from, apartment complexes, and they're not used to paying for, trash and internet. Or, maybe some of those services were included in their rent. As a homeowner, they're not. Sometimes you have to, you pay water bill, trash and sewer bill. If you're in the country, you'll have a propane bill, your internet. There's a lot of expenses that go into homeownership after the closing, to where it's not just about the payment. You've got your utilities and your maintenance and repairs expenses, and I would highly, highly, highly suggest you create a budget or at least mindful of what you can expect to spend on those items before committing to buying a place. Because not everyone is cut out for home ownership, but the ones who are mindful of all those things, and they budget accordingly. This kind of leads me into this next topic I want to talk about, and it's home maintenance and repairs. Coming from, if you're a first-time home buyer and you're used to renting, you're probably used to just not having much responsibility as far as the maintenance of the property itself. You're gonna have to learn how to, and you don't have to learn these things. You can hire other people to do these things, but you got to know that they need done, and you've got to make sure that they get done. Whether you do them yourself or you hire a third-party company to come out and do them, there's expenses associated with the maintenance of your home. You may have to pressure wash it, 2 to 3 times a year. You may have to, if you've got natural materials on your house, whether, things like cedar, or you've got brick or some stonework that, you may need to touch up. You need to tuck point the mortar every now and then. Sealing that wood, or staying up to date on painting, like pressure washing, mowing your grass, landscaping every year, all of the expenses in maintaining a healthy lawn, fertilizer, just all that fun stuff. You're gonna wanna be mindful of whatever you're buying, what you can expect to spend on those items as well, whether you do them yourself or you pay someone to do it. There's gonna be a fee or an expense regardless. So I would be mindful of all that so you're not house poor. The last big one that gets missed a lot are HOA dues for some reason. Not every area property is in a homeowners association or has dues, but it is commonplace if you're in a subdivision that you do have dues. Some developments have just annual dues, and they're really low, a couple $100 a year. Others could be, $400 or $500 a quarter, plus like a $500 like annual fee, or for whatever reason. Some of these developments have clubhouses, some of them have community pools, some of them have community tennis courts. A lot goes into those things to maintain all of that and to provide that for the community. So I would be aware of how much those HOA expenses are, how frequent they are, and then when they come, that way you can budget, plan, and pay what's required. So yeah, that's really it, guys. That's kind of all I had. I wanted to make a video just talking more about some of these hidden expenses, or just some of these expenses that get overlooked, that I see people get upset about every now and then, that they're disappointed that they either overlooked or they weren't told. I wanted to put it in video form so you could just be aware and you could be mindful, of all these expenses. So don't let it scare you. It's not all that bad if you're educated and you know what to expect. Like always, if you've made it this far, please like, share, comment, subscribe. We'll see you guys next week.